We are out of the darkness and back into the light. We are done with our Halloween fest, and we're going to put some scary movies on the shelf for a little bit. Of course, we'll come back to scary movies eventually. But tonight, I figured let's do something a little light, something fun, and I've been reading lately a book about Carole Lombard and Clark Gable's marriage, so if you start seeing some Carole Lombard and Clark Gable films pop up, that's probably the reason why. Tonight's review is of a comedy romance film, and it is of Love Before Breakfast. This film came out in 1936, and it is a Universal picture. It's interesting because it's not a Paramount film, which Carole Lombard was pretty much always contracted with Paramount, but she was lent out to Universal to make this film. Paramount wanted to work with Margaret Sullivan for a movie called So Red the Rose. So, in exchange for that, they sent Carole Lombard over to Universal, and we got this film. This movie was directed by Walter Lang. And we also have actor Preston Foster as the leading male role. Now, I've never seen Preston Foster as the leading male role in any movie before, and after seeing this movie, I can kind of understand why. He's got some personality, that's for sure, but he just doesn't have the presence that some of the bigger names brought to the table, like a Clark Gable or I don't know, like a Gregory Peck. He just doesn't have the same presence that stars, or even like an Edward G. Robinson, but I could go on and on with names. And we also had Cesar Romero in this movie, interestingly enough. And I'll start out by saying that I wasn't too thrilled with this picture after watching it. Melvin Douglas was actually, they were pending to see if he would play the leading male role, Scott, in this. Scott is his name. And honestly, I kind of wish Melvin Douglas had been in this because I just think Melvin Douglas is a much better actor. I've, for the most part, liked Melvin Douglas in everything I've seen him in so far. But when I look for movies to watch, sometimes it's the movie posters that catch my eye. And this movie poster certainly caught my eye. Just a beautiful drawing or painting of Carole Lombard, who obviously she was just stunningly beautiful, with a big black eye. Now, I've read that, or I didn't notice during the movie, but apparently the black eye in the movie poster is not actually, it's wrong, because apparently in the movie the black eye is on her other eye. I can't remember if it's her left one or her right one. So take notice to that when you watch the film. But I love the poster. Of course, I don't condone domestic violence or any sort of thing like that. But it's just the poster has a lot of character to it. But don't let the poster mislead you, because this movie honestly just isn't that great. It's certainly forgettable. But let's get into the plot. So it starts out with we get a scene of the Empire State Building. It's just cool to see what the front of the Empire State Building in New York City looks like in the 1930s. So I note that. And we notice that Carole Lombard's character, her name is Kay, she's in love. She's in love with Cesar Romero's character. His name is Bill. Very boring name because his name is Bill. Preston Foster's name is Scott. And she's in love with him, and they're to be engaged. But it seems like Cesar Romero just not too interested in the relationship. In fact, he's willing to take a job in another country before getting married to her. However, they are engaged. We learn that they are indeed engaged. He seems a little more checked out of the relationship, though. And rightfully so. He wants to advance his career. He wants to really become a successful man, which I can respect that. Now, from the very beginning, I hated Preston Foster's character. In fact, I didn't even like him. I just, for one thing, Preston Foster, his name is Scott in this. He's extremely wealthy, powerful man, and he uses his money and his power to basically woo Carole Lombard's character over, to make her fall in love with him by using his power and his money, because right away he's like, okay, well, I'm going to send your fiance away to another country so I can have you all to myself, all alone with me, so I can make you fall in love with me. So I'm just like, this guy's a scumbag. Am I honestly supposed to be cheering for him? And in the start, Kay, she doesn't want anything to do with him. In fact, she learns that he's the reason why her fiance has been sent away, and she holds out for quite some time. There's a scene where they go to a bar. She's trying to get away from him, and Preston Scott, oh my God, he thinks he's witty, and he thinks he's charming and he's funny, but he's really not. At least to me, he wasn't at all. And it's almost like he's stalking her. And it gets to the point where they're in a bar and they turn the lights off because there's like a big brawl in the bar, and he accidentally socks Carole Lombard. He socks Kay in the eye, and this is why she has that big black eye, which is kind of cute, honestly, but it's not cute because I do not like Scott at all. Now, we then see a beautiful scene the next day. She wakes up with this big dark eye, and it's kind of funny because she's trying to get rid of the black eye. She's trying to hide it. And I was wondering, are we going to see her with a black eye the rest of the movie? But definitely not. And so she goes to like some sort of spa place, and the guy's getting ready to prep her eye to take care of the black eye. And then Scott comes back, and he's just like, hey, stalking her again, saying, hey, I'm here, I'll help you with that eye, blah blah blah. And she just doesn't want anything to do with him. And then cut scenes, I think, later to she's going horseback riding. You know, she wants to get away from everything. She probably wants to get away from Scott. And then he follows her there as well on a horse, and he's always laughing at he's one of those guys, he's always laughing at his own jokes. He thinks he's so charming, and he's, you know, this very wealthy man with a lot of power and money, but he's so annoying, and she's pretty annoyed with him as well. Now, eventually, he sort of, I don't want to say, he's not tricking her into marrying him, but he stops calling her, and she gets lonely. Now, I can understand her fiance is far away from her. She probably hasn't seen him in months. And so Scott kind of has this idea, okay, I'm just going to stop talking to her. She doesn't want me. So she's bored and she wants to see him. So she's like, what's up? Because this guy was once crazy with me, and this is sort of like manipulation. So she goes to see Scott, and he basically proposes, and she accepts, but in like a really cold, ugly sort of way. It's not really, they're not in love. In fact, when they kiss, it's like she closes her lips when she does it. Carole Lombard was just, she was a natural at comedies, honestly. And so they're engaged at this point. And at what point do I sort of start liking Scott's character? Now, Scott sort of matures a little bit once they're engaged. He thinks, you know, I don't want to marry someone who's not in love with me. So he tells her, look, I've called for Bill, Cesar Romero's character, to come back. And basically, he basically wants to see if she still has feelings for Bill. And their marriage is essentially called off. So then we sort of have this really interesting, cool scene where she goes to a beautiful restaurant, 1930s, and it's like a circular restaurant. It's like how do I explain it? It's like this circular moving area with all the tables in the restaurant going around and around, and they're at one of the tables that's going around and around. In fact, I would love to eat at a restaurant like this, although you might get dizzy. In fact, she says at one point, "Oh man, I'm like, this thing needs to stop." Anyway, I just wanted to note how cool the restaurant was. And so she sees Scott, and at this point we like, okay, I think she's starting to fall in love with him, because she seems kind of over Bill, because Bill's just he's not as wealthy, he's not as powerful. So she's sort of over Bill at this point. And then she's just trying to act like she's happy without Scott. And at this point in the film, I thought that Carole Lombard's character was sort of annoying, because she's extremely stubborn. She won't ever say her true feelings, and neither of them will. Well, Scott's fairly honest, but to the annoying point. So then we go to this scene where she is going out on a boat with Cesar Romero, with Bill. And of course, Scott is on a yacht. He's extremely wealthy. He's out on a yacht just a little ways from them. And she's extremely jealous. She's jealous with rage. She's on this crummy little boat with Cesar Romero. And time she has any sight of anything having to do with Scott, she's just in a sour mood. Now, a storm comes along, and this is like the climax of the film. And Scott sends help over. You need to get her out of this situation, because she's going to die. And honestly, I love the special effects in this scene, because the storm is so strong that there's a part where it shows just water pour into the boat. And it looks real. It looks like the ocean water is just pouring in. They're like drowning essentially. And she's suffering. She's having an awful time. And help comes, and she is still being so rude and so stubborn that she says, "No, we don't need help." And if you're anything like me, you're rolling your eyes at this point. Like, just stop. So then they force her onto Scott's yacht, and she's very sick. So is Cesar Romero. And at this point, Cesar Romero, Bill, he's aware that, okay, she's still in love with Scott. Like, he's over her now too. And Scott and Kay, they just argue on the yacht. And at this point, I'm just like, I'm so over the relationship. And in a strange way, he's just like, "So are we going to get married, or when are we going to get married?" And they get married on the yacht, and they're still, okay, at the altar, at the very, very end, they're arguing with each other. And honestly, I think they were aiming for the audience to be like, "Oh, haha, they're so cute, this cute arguing couple." But honestly, it's not. They're toxic. This is a toxic relationship. It looks like it's going to be an awful marriage. Their marriage is based on Scott bringing her away from her fiance, being a huge jerk, stalker type guy. So honestly, at one point I was like at a 2 stars with this film. And then when Scott started to be a better person, I was like, okay, maybe this movie it's getting better. So I went up to 2.5. But honestly, once Carole Lombard became extremely stubborn in the last 30 minutes, this movie went back down to a 2 stars. So I give this film a 2 stars. Let me see if I have anything else in terms of history to talk about. I don't think I do. But I'm curious, what did you all think of Scott, and what did you think of Kay? What did you think of the relationship? Did you like them as a pair? Are you like me and you just didn't care at all for them? Let me know in the comments below. And we're back. I do have some movies in mind for some Thanksgiving films. I haven't done Thanksgiving reviews in a while. And of course, we'll be doing Christmas reviews in December. But I'm glad to be back doing normal movies, not the scary ones. But I'm glad you're all sticking with me through October, and thanks for watching, everyone.